Alright, so we're going to talk about extension cords today. So the reason we're talking about extension cords is, first of all, in Wisconsin during the winter months it gets very cold, and if you don't get the right type of extension cord, it just doesn't work. It's very stiff and brittle, so you want something that'll work in cold weather. So this is why I'm making the video. I bought a cold weather extension cord, and typically when you see cold weather, you're going to see them, they're going to be, the jacket on them are going to be blue, and then they'll have some sort of rating on the front of the box that'll say like down to negative something or other. So the reason I was in the market for a cord is because the cord I have out at the land that I used for heating up the tractor with the block heater, the plug on it does not work well at all. It's like I can't get anything into the plug, and I bought one of the cheaper blue, and honestly I didn't even look at the temperature rating on it. I just bought it because it was blue and it was a cheap cord. Well, now after I did some investigating, it turns out there is some differences between cords here, and I'm going to share those with you. Alright, so the first thing we'll talk about is actual cord size. That's pretty obvious. So you got different wire inside each one of these, and that'll give you a different type of rating that you can use it for. This cord obviously is not very good. I think this is a 16 gauge, and there's a little split here in the outside coating. It's 16 and it's not rated for cold weather at all. It's a very cheap cord. Not real good for using power tools with, because it's not going to provide the right amount of amperage that you need, and you'll end up burning out different things, saws, that type of saws, compressors. And the only reason I know that is I worked construction for a while, and when we had long runs like over 100 feet, sometimes 200 or 300 feet, that we'd be running a cord from a generator, the boss would make sure we used a 10 gauge extension cord, which is a really heavy duty extension cord. It's very heavy, and the only other cords we had were 12 gauge. We didn't have anything lighter than a 12 gauge extension cord, but he made a point of saying we had to use that heavy cord when we were making long runs, and it did make a difference. You could hear it the way the drills would wind up, the way the saws would wind. It would take a long time because you had that amount of line drop. So anyway, the cord that I bought then, that I use quite often here, is this one here. That's just a 12 gauge. It's a 25 footer. It works good for saw work, stuff like in the shop when you need an extension cord and you want something that's going to provide the correct amount of amperage. This one here is going to be a 14 gauge. That's a 50 foot. I use that outside for like trimming, stuff like that. Obviously it's not going to provide the same amount of amperage because of the length and in wire size. This one, like I said before, this is a 16. It's not good for much of anything. I just bought a 16. I'm using this to run 2 strings of lights. You know, and here on the package it shows what the wattage is. It's 1625 watts, 16 gauge, and then it also gives you some information about indoor outdoor rating on it, and this can be used outdoors but in dry outdoor conditions is what it says. And then this is the extension cord I bought that's going to be my cold weather extension cord. Okay, so I was going to buy a blue one. They had a blue one on sale that was rated for cold weather. I think it was like 19 bucks, and it was a 25 footer. This one's a 50, and it wasn't marketed with the blue ones, but there's a couple reasons why I like this one. First and foremost, I saw the American flag on it, which is made in America. None of the other ones were. They were either Taiwan or China. And then I noticed it said here 105 Celsius to negative 40 Celsius. I don't know what the conversion was, so I looked it up on my phone, and I guess negative 40 Celsius is exactly the same as negative 40 Fahrenheit. For some reason, that's just how that works out. A couple things to note. This one's made in America, and they gave the rating in Celsius, which I thought was unique. All of the other cords made in China and Taiwan all gave it in Fahrenheit. I don't quite understand that. So this is a 14.3 cord, and you can see here the watts are going to be a little bit higher, 1875, because of the heavier cord. So I started inspecting the rest of these cords because I'm like, well, there's got to be a way to figure out what their ratings are for temperature. Okay, so let's talk temperature ratings. We'll start with the cheapest of the cords here. This orange cord, the rating for that, it says, is 60 Celsius to 75 Celsius, which is not much of a range, and as you can tell, the garage is 52 degrees. This cord is not very flexible already and just not real nice. The big cord here, this 12 gauge, and I've tried using this outside and it's just not very flexible. It says 75 Celsius, doesn't give a range at all, so I guess it's doesn't work for much, or maybe they didn't have to put a range on that cord. I'm not real sure. The yellow jacket, the only marking I can find is negative 50 Celsius. This cord is also marked as water resistant, so I don't know if that's something else. And then the south wire, the cord I just bought, that one says has a range of negative 50 to negative 105. So if you actually look on the box, which this is interesting to note, maybe not, to me it is, it says 105 to negative 40, and on the actual cord it says 105 to negative 50, so maybe it's actually a little bit better, but they're marketing it as a negative 40 cord. So when you buy your cord, I guess that's important to look at, not only the box or sleeve that it comes in, but then also go through and look, see what the actual jacket on the cord says. I honestly didn't know it was that big of a deal. I thought a blue cord was pretty much covered for cold weather, but like I said, the blue cord I have out at the land, it's flexible, but the end, the actual plug, you can't plug anything into it. It only plugs in about probably a quarter inch or so, and you get a bunch of stuff sticking out. Like this one, you can see it plugs together real nice. It's got the lighted end, comes apart real nice. There's not much to it, but the one I have at the land, I can probably get about that far, and you cannot get it in any further. And I haven't done any investigating on why it does that. But if you're buying an extension cord, don't go cheap. Cheap extension cord in the long run just is not going to help you. Now, with that being said, this was a very cheap cord. I tried to find the cheapest 25-foot cord I could find. This is made in China. It's from Menards. And the reason I bought this, I said, is just for lights. So I'm not really concerned about whether it's outdoor rated or anything like that. I didn't want to use an expensive, nice cord outside to run Christmas lights. I figure we'll just buy a cheap one, and if it's destroyed or if it lasts another season, we got our money out of it. But if you're running power tools and stuff like that, get yourself a good cord. I do someday would like to get a 10 gauge extension cord just for running longer lengths and higher amperage things, but 10 gauge extension cord is not cheap. They're very pricey. So yeah, but this really surprised me that I could find one that was made in the United States, and I think this cord was like on sale for $31, or maybe it was 34 or something. It was 30 something. But a 50-foot cord, it's a 14.3, which is a decent sized cord, and then it's got a decent cold weather rating. That's not bad at all. So extension cords, you kind of get what you pay for, I guess. If the deal seems like it's too good to be true, chances are it probably is.